Welcome to Investories, a podcast about real stories, real estate, and taking real action. Join hosts John Hooper and Kyle Robertson as they talk investing, mindset, and taking that first step. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories Podcast.
Booyah! Welcome to Investories Podcast. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, John.
How's your computer?
It's working now. Thank you. I appreciate the concern. Yeah.
IT support is ready to help. So, how's your week? Good?
Yeah, week's been really good. Not bad.
Yeah.
About you? How are you? I wish I need to start doing these intros so I get to ask you first, because I feel like you kind of fall by the wayside sometimes, and it's just not fair.
I'm just an afterthought. I'm just the host here.
Never.
I ran today, and my hip doesn't hurt, or my knee doesn't hurt. My right knee, my left knee now hurts.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what's going on there, but I ran and I didn't fall over or anything, so that's good.
That's a win.
I'll take it. 2 miles.
Well, I went to the gym last night, and to turn the conversation back to me, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was short-lived. Bloody hell.
I went to the gym last night and fell off of a box trying to do box jumps. It was a 30-inch box, so it was a really tall one. And so now I can barely walk. I ended up just racking both of my shins, and it hurts like hell. So there's my positive story.
30 inches, that's like 5 meters, right?
I don't know, man. Measure it in bananas, and I can tell you. I don't know what a meter is. Yeah.
Yeah. Me neither. So today we've got Drew on. Drew is Sub2Drew on Instagram. And this is a really cool interview. We weren't really sure where it was going to go, but we knew we wanted to speak to someone in Subject2 about creative financing, Subject2, that kind of stuff. But this is a really cool interview of really diving into everything, really. A lot around mindset, a lot around the techniques, how to kind of start spinning deals and figuring out how this all works and fits together. A lot of tips on how to close people and really how to talk to agents as well. So there's so much good stuff in there.
Yeah, he does a great job. And honestly, for everybody listening, go check out his Instagram, because he actually posts live conversations that he has with sellers. And so if you are intimidated by things like direct to seller, making cold calls, watch how calm he is. Watch how smooth and collected, and it really is fairly inspiring to see. Just don't get in your own head about it. And Drew does a wonderful job, like John said, of just sharing his own story. And we're all about mindset on this show, and he was no lack in that whatsoever. He shared a lot of stuff that was super valuable for anybody wanting to get into it. Subject2, and really Subject2 wasn't the biggest part of the conversation. It really was, more or less centered around not giving up. He was a big one on not giving up. He shared some of his failures as well. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, and without further ado, here's the interview. Welcome to Investories, Drew Oquendo. Did I pronounce your name right, Drew?
You actually did, and you didn't even practice at all.
Yes.
You didn't ask me. That was good. I like it.
That's good. I'll take that as a win. I usually pronounce everyone's name wrong, places, things. It's
all
terrible.
Good, man. I do the same.
I'm a stranger to these shores still, I think. I can see it's been 7 years, so I don't know. Was it 10 years I have to adjust?
Nah, you're doing good, man. You're doing good.
So, Drew, we're so happy to get you on and talk everything, everything creative finance, right? Subject2,
finance.
The whole gamut of, yeah.
Yeah. We even got some made up names for stuff that we do. Basically, it's any way to make some money on a transaction. That's it.
There's a mission right there. And Drew, we want to go into that. We also want to talk about your background through the military, through competitive bodybuilding, things like that. Investories, we're all about a few things: mindset, the techniques and things like that to drive your business forward, and then also the wins and losses that have kind of taken you along the journey. And we're excited to talk to you about all of these things today. Yeah. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, like all those things you just said are like crucial to everything that we do, and everything in life, not even just investing. Mindset is huge. They say, what is it, like 90% is mental. Some might even argue it's 100% or 99%, but it's a lot. And then you couple that with like you said, the wins and the losses. Those are important because that's just just it's an important part of the process, both of them, how you handle both, you know, never trying not to be too high on the highs and too low on the lows, you know, and the so-called losses is more like, you got to look at it more like lessons. There's always an opportunity. And actually a lot of times those so-called losses are actually just pushing you like back on track or into the, you know, the position you're supposed to be in the first place and the route you're supposed to go down. If you keep an open mind with all that stuff that's happening as it's happening, you usually can see the straight path through a lot easier.
Yeah,
you know,
and I talk a lot to. I'm connected to a few ex-military guys that are investors now, and I'm interested in that journey. So you were a Marine, right? And then you went into the bodybuilding. What was that process, or what did that journey look like?
Yeah, well, you actually made it sound a lot cooler than it was. So it was like it was. I was a Marine, and then I transitioned into the civilian life and went straight real estate. The bodybuilding stuff came, you know, later on. After I was always, you know, of course, working out, trying to stay fit, but actual bodybuilding came later on, like after a breakup and all that stuff, and that launched me into that world. So, as far as that earlier journey and that transition, it was simple. So I did 10 years in, and during my last year in, you know, this was like 2013. I had was having a kid. So my wife at the time, we're not married anymore, but at the time, she was pregnant, and I was kind of thinking, like, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue on this, you know, trying to be a superhero, or do I want to, like, have a family and do all that stuff and settle down? And that was the decision. But, of course, either route I go, I got to provide. So I just so randomly happened to stumble upon I think it was a YouTube video or something. It was like a clip of Oprah. I don't watch Oprah at all, but Oprah,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I promise. I swear I don't watch Oprah at all. This is the only time. But it came on, and it was Robert Kiyosaki talking about Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I know that's how a lot of investors started, but Rich Dad Poor Dad, he came on talking about everything he spoke about in the book, and I was like, man, that sounds interesting. Started resonating with me, and I just started going down that rabbit hole, and then found out about wholesaling and all that stuff. And of course, you find out about wholesaling, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? I'm gonna get rich. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get rich, and so I decided not to continue pursuing the, you know, real estate, or not real estate, but military, and getting out and just going, like, dropping all that stuff, like no federal work or anything like that, nothing along the lines of military. Just got out and did real estate. So I'm not crazy though. So my last year in 2014, that's when I actually did the whole, like, did the whole process. Started the LLC, you know, started a company. This is in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, but did the whole LLC thing, did the whole dance, right? And had some good success, like right out the bat. Actually I failed miserably as a wholesaler, right? Did not work out as a wholesaler. And my first deal, I grabbed a deal. It was on market, put $1,000 for EMD, and I swore I can wholesale it. I swore it was a deal because I studied everything, and I had it, like, conceptualized in my head, and I understand it, but no one was buying it. And me, I guess I had too much ego at the time. I was like, no, hell no, I know it's a deal, so I'm gonna do it myself. I didn't have the money, but I guess I always talked a good game. I don't know, but I just met the right person, and he's a guy out there who's still doing deals out there. He's a former FBI guy, and he actually lent me money on that deal. He lent me money on the deal, and the strategy we had to pay him back was so I guess it was creative from the beginning, because the strategy to pay him back was he was going to lend me the money and not record a lien on it, right? But I was going to turn around and go get a HELOC from a local bank. At the time, it was that easy. You didn't have to hold the property for a certain amount of days. I just had to own it free and clear. So just bought the property, went to the bank, did the HELOC, and was able to pull the money out that he gave me to purchase property and give it right back. So he was already out, you know, of it. But we did a 60-40 split. So ended up making, you know, $20K on that deal, and also doing, you know, with his guidance and everything. He let me use his contractors and all that stuff. It was like a blessing. And that's how I became a flipper. And I just kept, you know, flipping from there. then, my wife at the time wanted to move down to Orlando. So I'm like, yeah, I can do anything, right? I'm killing it. So, I wasn't that stupid. So I kind of prepped for it, and I got my license while I was up in, North Carolina, moved down to Orlando, became an agent, thought I was a hot shot. I was already used to going direct to seller. So I didn't want to work with buyers or any of that stuff as an agent. I was just hitting the phones, door knocking, and doing the same things I was doing as a direct to seller, as a flipper with a direct to seller business model. And I came down. This is where mindset comes into play. I came down to Orlando from North Carolina, failed miserably. Like that first year, only made $7,000, racked up a ton of credit card debt that I still have, but that's another reason why I do creative. I have to do creative, right? And it works.
Drew, I've got a question for you, buddy, and I think John would probably agree with me that I'm the guy that likes to get personal whenever we have guests on here. So so here let's pretend I'm Oprah. How about that? We'll just sit down. We'll have a nice Oprah conversation.
Hope I get a car out of this, man.
Yeah, right. You said something a little while back that kind of resonated with me a little bit. And you said, and it was a really short comment, but you said, "I want to be rich." I'm curious, where did that mindset come from? Why do you want to be rich, and what drove that desire inside of you?
Man, that's a dope question. I like that. So I wanted to be, and I never thought about this, right? But where it came from, now that you put me on the spot, it would have to be from that clip. Like finding out, I guess that clip started it. The clip with Robert Kiyosaki, him talking about what he was talking about, financial literacy and things like that, that started resonating with me. And then digging deeper down the rabbit hole, finding a guy, it's funny, it was some, everybody's a mentor these days, and even back then, but it was a guy who was out of Colorado. I didn't know anything about Colorado, but he was out of Colorado and he was talking about wholesaling. So again, even now when they talk about wholesaling, they make it sound like it's the easiest thing in the world, right? It's a simple thing, simple concept, and maybe everybody can get one deal here and there, but to do it consistently and actually live off of it, and get out of the rat race off of it, whole different story. A lot of mindset that comes in play. But so that's where the rich thing came from, because I started believing that. Oh shit! I don't know if I curse on her, but I started believing.
You go right ahead, Drew.
John does it all the time. He says weird British cuss words that I've never even heard before. So yeah,
bollocks.
Maybe we'll hear some.
Bollocks is one of them.
There you go. So it was like I started believing that I could be rich. I didn't really think I could, and really playing superhero and G.I. Joe, Supermarine, and all this stuff was really what was on my mind back then. Shoot stuff up. I was an infantryman, right? So shoot stuff up and do all that stuff, right? But now I have a kid, I want to have something, and they're talking about I can make money like this. Man, so that's where it came from, thinking that I can.
Now, what's money going to do for you? I'm curious a little bit more on where your mind is, because with every guest that we have, they all have a different answer to this question, and it's super fascinating to me. So let's say, it's 10 years from now, you're the richest Sub2 guy. You make Pace Morby look ridiculous, right? This is subject to Drew over here, right? So what did that lifestyle, because obviously money is a tool. It's not the destination, it's the journey, right? It's what gets you to the destination. So what did that money do for you 10 years from now?
It's funny, because if you would ask me that back then, it would have been a different answer, right? It would have probably been a fake answer that you think people want to hear, or, something along those lines, right? And, if you see, John, you and I were talking earlier, like, my content, the way it is, like, I kind of deliver it, like, raw and, like, real. I like that. Authenticity is the highest form of, vibrational frequency, right? So I like being real. So my answer now, I'm more prepared for it, because I actually know, like, what it's going to do for me. So it's kind of evolved over the time, but it's really about life-changing money, right? Not money to change my life, but money to change everybody around me, right? The friends I have, the people I associate with, like, when we go out somewhere, we're fighting to pay the bill for everybody to cover it, right? For like us like one person to cover the whole thing, because you're the man at that point. You can do that. It feels good to be able to do that for everybody, no matter how big the table is, right? I've gone out with some other people, and everybody's hiding when the bill comes, right? Those aren't the people I want to be around, right? I want to be around people who come from abundance, right? I want to be able to provide opportunities for other people, family, friends, whoever who comes in and I come encounter with. So it's really more about life, like life-changing money, enough money to change the lives of other people. Also, to add to that, to, you know, us as men, right? Men commonly or traditionally have this provider or protector like mindset, right? And we go out and we slay the dragon, we come back, save the princess, right? That type of stuff, right? So for me, the money facilitates all of that, right? I can be the protector, provider for my whole tribe, right? And that's everybody who vibes with me, you know? So that's really, you know, what it means for me.
That's such an interesting point, and I've been on a real journey with that, because I was like, yeah, I just want to have X, or I want to have this much money coming in. And I really got to thinking about the why, and like what I want my legacy to be, or an impact, and I guess having a kid really changed that for me. It was like, oh well, I need to be an example as well as like a machine to go make money. I need to like set an example for the little one, and like leave her something she can be proud of. So that's so interesting. I think the other question I had, and I think you've part answered it, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We've had that answer so many times on this podcast, classic, and it's the same for me, right? What is it about that book? Is it the way it sets it out, or is there something deeper than that?
It's funny because you're right. What is it about that book? Because it's basic information, right? It's not anything like revolutionary, but it is to us at that time. Like, it just opens up our our understanding and consciousness. Like, wow. Wait a minute, he's right. You know, nobody ever taught us this stuff, right? Everything he said in there hit home. It was absolutely right, right? Maybe it's a little bit different these days. People are talking about entrepreneurship and all that stuff, and making money and building something. So, and that's probably where it came from, you know, spawning from all of that. So I don't know what it was about it specifically, but I just heard it at the right time. You know, I was primed for it. You know.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about that book, and we talk about this, I swear it comes on all the time, but it's always worth talking about just because it's so impactful. But isn't it weird that the thing's not even a real estate book, but it's always real estate investors that it typically, it's a business book, but it's real estate investors that are like, oh, this is where I got my start that way. I remember when I did it, when I first read that book, I was, working a job that I couldn't stand, and I don't even remember where I got it. I think somebody gave it to me. And I sat down, and I'm not a reader. I'm telling you. I was
just thinking that. Me either.
Yeah, man.
That was the first book I ever read. Actually,
the
first book,
I probably hadn't read one in 10 or 15 years prior to that. And it ended up, I think there was a second book called Who Moved My Cheese. If you haven't read that one, it's really cool. Totally unrelated, but it's another kind of self-help book that's really interesting. But I sat down and started reading this book and couldn't stop. And that's the sign of a good book, right? As soon as you start reading it, you don't want to stop. It's way better than any TV program or any movie or anything like that. So, have there been other books that I don't know, because I became a major book reader after Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm like, holy crap, 100%. They write books about this stuff?
Yeah.
What other kinds of stuff has been impactful on you?
Oh, man. You're right. I was the same boat. First book I ever read fully, right? Everything else was like Spark Notes and, the quickest way to just answer whatever needed to be answered on a test or a book report in school, right? But from there, it was like it just opened the floodgates, wanting more knowledge and learn stuff. But there was a lot of great books, but to an effort and like spirit to not like be cliche and say some of the same stuff everyone says. There was one book, we all know Think and Grow Rich, right? But this one was, you ever heard The Dark Side of Think and Grow Rich? The dark sides of the book? It's called...
Super interested, though.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Crazy. Amazing. I'm going to tell you what it is right now as soon as it pulls up on Audible. Yeah, so Outwitting the Devil. Outwitting the Devil, right? It's by Napoleon Hill.
Oh, it is by Napoleon Hill. Okay. Yeah.
So it's the dark side. It's supposed to be thought of as the dark side of Think and Grow Rich, and what it's supposed to be is his interview with the devil, right? And it's this whole big controversy, maybe made up sensationalized for like media and stuff. I don't know, but they're playing into the fact, oh, was it a real interview with the devil or not, and all that stuff. So it's him asking the devil questions and how he enters the minds of people, right? And it's drifting is the big theme, overarching theme. People with no sense of direction on where they're going, right? They're called drifters. So that's how he uses those people, getting their minds jack stuff up, right? That book was deep as hell. That was a good book because through the journey, I got, we all go through ups and downs. We take those losses and stuff like that. And through one of them came like just looking for like different types of energy to like just propel you through the BS that we deal with, right? It ain't easy, right? Everybody who's like putting this stuff out on Instagram and stuff, making it look great, it ain't really like that in real life. And the problem is a lot of people think that's what it's like. That's how easy it is to get stuff. It takes some work, The stuff I do now, the way I talk on with these sellers and stuff like that, how real I am with them, people look at me and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's you. You're natural born seller." I'm not natural at anything. I had to learn that stuff. People they'll see the reps you put in when no one else is looking, right? How you sacrifice not going out and not having a girlfriend or not doing anything like that to read a script 10 times in the morning or whatever, to internalize it and learn it and stuff like that every morning, like people don't see that stuff. So, that's me going off on a tangent and stuff like that. But getting back to what was the actual point I was trying to make? What was the question?
About other books.
Yeah, the books. Yeah, that book was really good because people are so quick to label what's good and bad, right? Right? Negative energy, positive energy, right? But at the end of the day, it's energy, right? It's just how we channel it and use it, right? So I never understood the concept of channeling so-called negative energy to an appropriate place to make something of it. I never understood that until I went through a bad breakup, and I had no choice but to. It was like, what do you do with these emotions and stuff you're feeling? Do you get into bodybuilding, put it somewhere? Most bodybuilders get into bodybuilding through a breakup and heartbreak, right? And then some people go and they go through a hoe phase, like, girls call it or whatever, and they go crazy, right? That's putting it in the bad
First time we've ever had the word hoe phase on here before. I like that.
Here for the first. Here for first. First
show title.
So that it wasn't about negative energy or positive energy. It was about taking any energy you can get your hands on and using it to fuel you in whatever path you're going. And that energy of like what we call negative, of not fear, but anger, wanting to get back, revenge, all that stuff. Because success is the ultimate revenge, right? So all that stuff propelled me to like work on a whole nother level and hustle and grind on a whole nother level, right? And that helped me break through a ceiling and experience a whole nother level of performance that I didn't even know existed for me, right? So my belief is that came from so-called the dark side, the negative energy, tapping into that. And when I found out about that book, that's what kind of drew me to it. And I read it, and everything made sense in it. It opened it up. So now that even ties into what we were talking about, mindset and the wins and losses, right? Because we see these losses as negative experiences sometimes. They're just a loss, right? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, right? You don't know, you don't have the grand perspective to know how things are going to pan out. So how do you know this is a negative or a positive, right? You got to keep just going, keep moving down the path, right? And see what opportunities open up. Always look for the opportunities. There's one everywhere, right? So that book just helped solidify all that stuff, that I'm not the only one out here thinking that crazy stuff, and it's not actually crazy.
Right? I like what you said, because it's, the energy part of that anyways, because a lot of people don't think of it that way. We always think that things happen to us, right?
To us, not
at
for
the
us.
same time, it's like they happen for us, and then also we are the ones that make things happen. So you can turn 100%. That energy negative if you want to be that type of a person. Now suddenly things are happening to me, and I'm a victim or something.
Victim.
Those are the people that are never going to be successful in business or real estate investing or whatever, because something bad happens, like, oh, throw the hands up. It's time for us to throw in the towel here, and I love that.
Yeah. And it's
what
funny
frees my mind. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
Well, I was just saying, it's funny because whatever they're thinking, they're right. You know, like whatever they're thinking, and you know that goes into the mindset thing again. So, but go ahead. Sorry, no.
So what I found interesting in my shift was like I felt like life was happening to me, and then I shifted my mind and shifted how I was processing things, and it was like, well, can I change this situation? Yes or no? If it's a no, then just let it go. So what, right? And if it's a yes, then change it.
Yeah,
and so
100%.
that's kind of the journey, right? It's interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
But the thing what stops people is it's a journey, right? It's you don't just do it. You've been thinking negative your whole life, right? And now you think you say one little cute saying, and now all of a sudden things are supposed to change drastically, just like that, 'cause like abracadabra. It's not how it works. You got to keep this thing. It's a whole lifestyle. It's a mindset. Just like the same thing to transform your body with a diet. It's not one thing you do. It's the consistency of actions you take like over time. You're not consistent until 91 days at least, and at that point you're 1 day consistent. You got to put in the time.
And I think to that point, Drew and I were talking before the call when Kyle was very late joining because of technology issues. Kyle,
thanks for pointing that out, John. Appreciate it.
No sweat. Just kidding. But we were talking about that isn't it crazy that in this age of social media, Drew's content is amazing. It really, I trawl Instagram a lot for guests, and Drew's content is Drew making phone calls, speaking to sellers, posting very transparently about the challenges he faces and the wins and the losses on that. So check out his Instagram. We'll put a link in the show notes. But that's going to not get as much traction as, I don't know, the latest Louis Vuitton sneaker, right? That people are going to go and buy with a credit card. That's just interesting.
Yeah. There's some way they can find out how to make money on that. They'd be doing well, Yeah.
Well, you said you were down. Okay, I guess we can fast forward back to where I kind of changed the direction of the conversation. But I'm curious. You got down to Florida now. You started having some pretty big issues. Things weren't making ends meet. You were at $7,000, and you had to pivot. I'm assuming you pivoted, or were you just feeling like you were just too young in the business and you had to give things time to grow?
Oh hell no! I put my head down and just kept ramming that wall, But what it was is mindset. It was I was telling myself a story that was coming true every single time, and the story was, damn, no matter what I do, I would even think it every time I get a contract signed, because I got contracts signed, I got listings, and all that stuff, from week one of being an agent, because I was already used to talking to the sellers. So I would always say, damn, as I'm getting it signed, shit, something, what's going to happen now, right? Something's always going to happen. I was telling myself, no matter what I do, right, how fast I go get a listing, something always happens, right, to blow it up. I'll get a listing signed, an hour away from the office. By the time I drive back to the office, they're calling to cancel or to hold off, And that was happening over and over and over again. My first listing that I got, it took like 10 months to close, right? It was under contract, all that stuff. It's just a problem after a problem after a problem. And I kept repeating that story. And I don't know where the change came from or what, but somehow, I just woke up and I realized I was telling myself that crappy story, and I started changing the story. And I'm really conscious about those type of thoughts and how I speak to myself, like when I'm thinking about things and all that, and I'm on top of it, And I got my partner for the business. His name is Marcos. Love that guy. He's like ride or die. He's also a military guy too. But we have these conversations. We keep each other in check about this stuff. So that's really helpful too. But that first year, that was the pivot.
And moving from that pivot, what did that educational piece look like? Like, how did you, I guess, formulate your plan and then kind of get educated on the direction you're going in?
So that's a good question too, because I did all the things I needed to do. So that's how I know it was specifically mindset, because I was doing everything that the other top producers in the office and in the community. Like, I became an expired listing agent, right? So we cold call expired. So I started coaching with Mike Ferry organization, which to me is like the Marine Corps of real estate as an agent, because they're like no BS. this is what it takes. You're a salesperson. Stop all that cute shit about being a fucking consultant and all this other garbage, that passive garbage that agents will say. This was about you're a salesperson, going there and sell it in the house, right? The people who want you to sell their house, they want a strong listing agent that's going to sell their house and get it done. They don't want a passive, friend. They can be friends after it, right? So I was on that path and everything, learning the scripts and all that stuff. But it wasn't clicking because the mindset, right? It also wasn't clicking because I wasn't being authentic, right? I wasn't being myself. I was trying to be Mike Ferry, right? I was his scripts. If you listen, like if anybody who's listening now, like knows any of the gurus out there, right? But Mike Ferry specifically, great organization, right? But anybody who knows the top producers in their organization, they take that script and they make it theirs, right? They own that script and they internalize it and they spit it back out in their own style, right? I didn't get to that level where I was comfortable deviating and putting it into my own style. And now I am. So now, and I did all the other stuff like the NLP training and the Never Split the Difference book and all that stuff that everybody's, kind of doing now, but just piecing it together and then finding my own rhythm and then realizing again, authenticity, right? The highest form or level of vibrational frequency, like that is what connects me with other people. So I get on the phone and like I feel connected to that person because I'm being myself, and they're vibing with that. And it's a vibe when we're talking, so all that doesn't play it till later though, but yeah.
So you've kind of realized what your shortcomings are, which is you're being somebody, you're not being yourself, right? And
gotta be myself. Yeah.
So I guess one of the questions I want to know, because I feel like we need to talk about timelines more, John, because I love hearing these things about these transformations for all these super high level individuals like Drew, but I never asked the question like, okay, you figured out the problem. How long did it take to get that shift in your business? And were you doing other education pieces in between? You mentioned Never Split the Difference and some other programs. Yeah. But how long did this take, and did those other things contribute to your success?
Absolutely contributed, yes. How long did it take? It's still going, right? It's an ongoing thing. You're always learning and hitting ceilings and evolving to the next level. But initially, there's different. So to start making money, like to be able to live off of that, started changing, I'd say 2 years, a year and a half of going through the BS and then starting to work on that mindset, reading more books. That's a must. You gotta, read and educate yourself, right? And when I say read, I listen to the books. I'm not a reader, an actual physical reader, but I gotta listen to it. But that helped. And then like a full, like the 2 years, like so 6 months after that, things are clicking. Like, all right, I got a rhythm now. Like, I'm good. And then here comes the next challenge, and then you got to get through that, right? Doing more deals. How do we do that, right? So it's always an ongoing process. But, yeah, as far as timeline, 2 years to start actually making money as an agent, here's the thing, too. Other people put that limiting belief in my head. So be careful who you ask information from, right? And understand at what place in their life they're giving you that information. Because if somebody's telling you to start farming as a damn new agent, you just need to run the other way. Why are you farming? Unless you got the money to do it. That takes time. And plus, you don't even know how to sell a house. You're doing all this farming, putting this stuff out there like you're the guru in the area. And what happens when they call you? Nobody thinks about that part. What are you going to say? Like, geez. So I hope that answers the question. But yeah, the two years, that point. But then to get good on the phones, honestly, that didn't come into play until to get good enough on the phones to where I can do it in front of other people, right? And then talk, because on my content, the Zoom that I have other people on, that they're in that video too. That was their lead. I'm calling the close their lead for them, right? So I'm doing it in front of them, showing them. So to be comfortable with all that, that didn't come until I'd say 2 years ago.
So if you don't mind clarifying just a little bit, because I've watched some of your Instagram stuff, And so you've got yourself and then another person on the Zoom right there, and then you're speaking with somebody over the phone. What do you mean that's their lead? Is this a client of yours that you're generating this lead for? Is that what you're saying?
So we I think it was you, John. You mentioned like Pace Morby. So I'm a part of the Sub2 community. So a lot of these guys they're not all Sub2, but most of the guys are people from Sub2 that need help closing a deal. So I'm a closer within the community. So they'll hit me up with a lead and say, hey, I need help closing this. This is the situation. So we'll schedule a call with the seller. We'll get on a Zoom so they can learn and see everything that happens. And then, that's it. So that's what's happening there.
Gotcha.
We'll either JV on the deal, or if they just need me to inch it to the goal line with just doing that, closing them on whatever strategy needs to be done, then I'll do that. Whatever they need. And then we make money together. That's it.
That's a really nice segue in terms of Sub2, and that's kind of, I guess, the core of our conversation, and the kind of the creative finance piece around that is really interesting as well.
Yeah.
What I'd like to understand is kind of, I think most people listening now know the broad strokes of Sub2 and kind of what it is.
Yeah,
but maybe a quick sentence or two on that. But I think the process and the kind of mechanics of it, and like you said, that closing mentality, or that closing role as well, and the flow of a Sub2 deal might be really interesting to kind of explore.
Yeah. So just like a couple things on Sub2, it's Sub2 is a normal transaction that people don't really talk about all the time, right? Sub2 now we use closing disclosures, but for cash deals, still we'll use a HUD, and then before closing disclosures and all that Dodd-Frank and stuff and TILA and all that stuff came out, we were using HUDs, right, for all the settlement statements on a real estate transaction. So there's a line item, I think it's like the 500 series, like block in there. It has a spot for Sub2, subject or mortgages taken subject to, right, or something to that effect, right, subject to in there. So there's a spot for it, and that's a HUD document. Right, so it's a legit transaction. People, they're afraid of what they don't understand, right? But it's normal, it's natural. A confused mind always says no, right? So, also, if you think about Sub2, if you think about not think about Sub2, but if you think about divorce situation, right? One spouse gets ordered to deed themselves off the property, right? Off of the other property, the other spouse keeps it. Doesn't matter whose name is on the mortgage at that point. The judge ordered it. That's it. That's a Sub2 transaction, right? Ordered by the judge. And then also someone dies, right? Someone dies. There's a probate case, right? The house goes to somebody else. If they keep making that payments, they can keep that. They can keep the house. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, the banks have an opportunity to call the note due if they want, right? But as long as it's getting paid, really, do they want to do that? Do they care? Really, it's the smaller banks that really sometimes have an issue with that. The smaller banks where their great-grandfather started it, and they're the ones looking at all the books, checking it every Sunday morning to see who's transferring stuff. They're the ones sometimes have a problem with it. But even with that, they know what it is. It's just it increases their risk, right? They think, right? But honestly, if the note's being performed on, it doesn't really matter in most cases. It doesn't matter if it's VA loan, doesn't matter if it's FHA loan, doesn't matter if it's conventional or anything like that, right? There's certain loans. There's different ways to navigate those type of loan products, right? To do it properly, and not every title company or closing attorney will do it, depending on the level of their experience. So when you get told no by one person, that's just because they don't know how to do it. It's not because they're all-knowing, infinite knowledge out there, right? And people are quick to say it's illegal. If somebody says it's illegal, burden of proof is on them. Show me where it's illegal, right? So it's super easy, but the challenging thing with Sub2 is wrapping your own head around it, right? So you wrap your own head around it, you sell it to yourself, and you understand why it's beneficial for that seller to do it, for anybody to do it. Then it becomes an easier sell, right? And that's really it. After that, of course, there's no guarantees with anything in real estate, right? There's only security. So we're not trying to guarantee nothing's going to happen, right? We're just putting security in place to mitigate some of those risks that people, those challenges people have. And that's really it.
So I have a few questions because, embarrassingly enough, I don't know a lot about Sub2. I've never done one. I do multifamily exclusively and always have for 18 years. But I've never done Sub2, and this I'll give you just a short. Maybe this kind of be a fun little exercise, but I'll give you a short little scenario that my father and I just came across not too long ago. He's trying to get me to buy the property next to him. The address actually showed up in the auction records, so it was going to be going to auction because this lady had decided she couldn't or didn't want to pay her note anymore with the bank. She managed to get a stay of execution, I guess you'd call it, to stop the auction from happening, and she was working it out with her lender. And I said, okay, well, I don't know if this is a good Sub2 opportunity right here, but she said that she was somewhat interested in selling. So if I was that seller and you are the guy, the investor trying to purchase this property, how would you approach me with this deal? Or is this even a deal that this would work out for?
So you got to look at it as if there's a couple things, right? Preliminary checks to make sure to see what you always want to see, like what's the exit strategy going to be, right? So, and then if it doesn't work for Sub2, that doesn't mean it's not going to work for some other creative structure to help her out and then make some money on the deal. So in this case, do we know what kind of loan it is?
Yeah, she had just a conventional loan. I think she did a 10% down for about 15 years ago or something. Yeah,
love it. Is there any equity on the deal?
No. In fact, I think she's there was no back taxes. I think she was somewhere around $10,000 and default payments that she had on the books.
So she's not expecting to make any money or anything. She's like, screw it, I'm just going to give this thing away.
She's just going to let it float, yeah.
Perfect, right? So in that scenario, and of course, we're helping them discover that this is a good route for them, right? And so I'm not the type of guy who just throws out a bunch of offers, right? I'm trying to start incorporating that in there somewhat so I can build a better system so I don't have to be the specialized ninja that goes into every deal. And I can actually scale out of this thing. So what we do is we don't really make offers like that. We have a discovery call with them, and we're helping them navigate through different options, right? And what we're doing psychologically though is canceling out these options, letting them cancel it out. So market, always the first choice, right? Just sell on the market. Oh, I don't have equity. Oh, the house is trash. It's not going to sell. All right, perfect. Can't do that. She's already said it, right? Now that's not going to come back and bite us in the butt, right? That's not going to come back when we're negotiating terms. And she's like, I just take it to the market, and she's blowing smoke, right? Because we canceled it out up front. So the next part is cash. Everybody wants cash, right? Cash is not going to work because it's not going to clear out she has no equity, right? Potentially it's not going to clear out with her debt and all that. So typically in this type of situation, the only thing we can really do to circumvent needing to go to get third-party approval, like appraisals and go through the arduous inspection process and all that. If we were to take over the mortgage, right, buy the property, subject to the existing mortgage, catch up your payments, right, and then continue making the payments, we can make sense of doing it that way. It'll save you from foreclosure. And the way we'll value that deal is we'll value it on the ability to cash flow, right? So we're on the hook for is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, the monthly payment, and the difference of what we can rent it for, right? So that's what we're going into, right? And if we have to we usually try to give them a few $1,000s if there's no meat on it, just to give them something, because we're taking over their mortgage, probably has a good interest rate, or it's been paid down 15 years into it is even better because now it starts turning into more payments to the principal as opposed to just interest. All those things, once you get a little more experience in it, all those things are and you start thinking for yourself and not thinking about what some guru told you, right, on what a deal looks like, then you can start becoming that specialized ninja who can buy deals that other people can't buy and everybody else is going to pass over. You become that. When you hear that seller talking about, we just need one buyer. There's that one buyer out there for this property, right? We become that one buyer, and we can make that deal work. And if it doesn't work for a long-term rental, doesn't work for a short-term rental, doesn't work for a medium-term rental, right? Like nurse housing, corporate housing, right? Maybe we can do assistant living facility, right? Maybe we don't do it, right? But maybe we secure the property and lease it out to an operator, right? a nice little hat, or sober living, right? Lease it out to an operator or sell it to them, right? There's so many things that we can do. Also, we can turn it around and sell it on a wraparound mortgage, and we can finance a penalty box buyer, someone who can't get traditional financing. Now we can give them an opportunity for home ownership. We make a nice little down payment on it, right? And if the numbers work out right, a lot of times we can, if we structure those notes properly, we can create a first note and a second note, and we can sell the note, even sell it at a discount to where it can wipe out that underlying debt, right? So we wipe out the underlying debt, we make money on that note sell, and we keep a small second so we can get paid cash flow, and we get a nice lump sum at the end of that whole ride, right? So many ninja stuff you can do that nobody knows that's even going on, right?
So a follow-up question that I have, let's say that, I am that lady, that I was originally talking about. You purchased my property subject to. What is do you as the investor now become the owner of record? As in, do you guys, fill out prom notes and you go out and you record them at the county? It's just the lender doesn't know about it because you don't want them to know about it. Am I understanding you correctly there? Because this is a subject. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It's not because we don't want them to know about it, per se, right? Because we don't want to get it misconstrued with like doing something shady, right? There's been people who've been burnt because it looks like the intent is to do something shady if it ever goes to court, right? To purposely try to mislead and hide and stuff. We don't want it to look like that. That's where it comes risk. Like there's a kind of like a little, not feud. It's not strong enough to be a feud, but there's like a dispute between, does it make more sense to do this on a land contract, right? Or not a land contract, like to buy the house in a trust to hide it, right? For estate planning purposes, right? So they don't know, so the banks don't think that someone else bought it, right? Maybe that could work, all right? And people do it. I don't say that anything's wrong with it, but I do them I just do them in the LLC, right? And the reason I do it is because of there's this like infamous guy who got burnt doing it. I never personally looked at the actual case. I don't know what case to even cite to look at it, but I've heard it from a couple different like mentors and things that I have that I just believe them, right? And I just, hey, if they're not doing this extra step of doing it in a trust and all that, then screw it. I'm just going to do it the way they do it, right? Because the things they said, it sounds plausible, right? It looks like you're maliciously trying to hide from the bank on what you're doing, right? You get a pissed off seller. All of a sudden, he doesn't like this deal, this arrangement anymore. You want to do things like above board so you can cover your ass when you have to protect it later on.
Now, so are you guys filling out a promissory note and recording it at the county so you become owner of record? Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
With the LLC on there and everything, yeah.
So now the original seller, her name is still technically attached to that mortgage. What happens to her if, unbeknownst to her, the person who purchased it, the subject to investor, stops making payments on this deal? Are there any safeguards in place because she may not even know it, and then suddenly she gets a foreclosure notice? Are there any safeguards that somebody should look out for if they're even thinking on selling their place in that strategy? Absolutely.
Now, that's a loaded question because yes, there is, but the thing is, people are gonna, once they find out what these things are, like these security measures are, they're gonna throw up on the people, right? And sometimes that might not even be an issue for that person. They might not they might not care. I've had some people who they don't want the property back. That's the fear that they get the property back, right? Because one of the security measures is, hey, if we miss one, if we're 30 days late on a payment or miss one payment, we'll have a pre-signed quick claim deed get deeded back over to you, right? There's different ways you can spend that. You can have it held with an attorney or a safety deposit box if you actually need to get down to it. But honestly, I've never had to do that. I've said it. I've brought it up as a way to overcome that objection. But really what they want is like they want that feeling, that warm and fuzzy feeling that you're not going to screw them. And when you come out confidently and say these things, they can feel that vibe. They don't know what it is. They're just going with it because they feel it, But when you're scary, that translates too. Right? You can't trust yourself. How the hell can they trust you? So I'll say those if it pops up. So to answer the question, the security measures is, you can set something up in place There's different names for it. Some people call it performance deed. Some people call it or performance language within the promissory note. Just basically, or just a clause, just saying that if you miss one payment, this is the part of promissory note. If you miss one payment or you're late a certain amount of days, then the property will you agree to sign the property back over. Some people don't like the fact that you say you'll pre-sign a quit claim deed, right? Some people argue the fact that you can't, but I've done that. Actually, physically, I had to do on sell clause called on me on a property. So what we did was we signed it, deeded it back over to them, but before we gave them the deed, we had them pre-sign the deed back over to us, right? And we held that deed until the coast was clear, right? And then we ran it later, like way later, right? So I personally have done it here in Florida, at least, pre-sign a quit claim deed. You can do that. You just can't do it on the same damn day. You can't have it have the same date, the same day, right? At least 1 day difference. I did it 2 days difference, but yeah. So there are measures, yes.
And in terms of the kind of mechanics or the systems behind that, how does that work? Do you use a loan servicing company to?
Good question.
To make payments, or is it through the existing portal, or how does that work?
That's a really good question because the lazy way is to do it through the existing portal, right? Which I gotta admit, I do have some property like that where I do it through the existing portal because the paperwork to get it set up that nobody told me before when I first started was that that paperwork is lengthy. It's only lengthy because I don't like paperwork, so I didn't have anybody to help with that stuff, so I was like, screw it, I'm not gonna do it. But it's been okay. Those worked out, but I don't do that anymore. Now it's like straight up, I get it signed, or I'll do the servicing. Right, do the servicing because now I do the note selling and stuff like that, creating the notes. So I want to create proper stacks of paper so they're marketable. I can sell them for a good amount, So yes, servicing company is another security feature that tracks all that stuff, and they make sure the payments are going out to who they need to go out to.
That's awesome. And the other question I had was around like sourcing the deal. So what does that kind of funnel look like in terms of finding opportunities?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. It's abundant right now. But finding the opportunities, direct to seller has always been my drug of choice. I love that because you have most control, right? But I've also, because I'm a good closer, I get a lot of JV opportunities, joint venture opportunities. So I have a JV department in our company, and we get people that bring us deals through that avenue, right? So they're just like from Instagram, they'll see the stuff on there and then they'll hit me up and then I'll help them close the deal. They'll bring back more. Some of them are one-off type people. Some of them come on, for a while. So deal sourcing can also out of those two channels. And when I say direct to seller, I mean things like, for me, my direct to seller efforts for my company is SMS, texting and stuff. So my guys will text and get a hold of the sellers. They'll get them on the phone quick. They'll have a discovery call with them, and then they'll escalate it up to me if it looks right as we call it an underwriter call. Right? They're talking to the underwriter to work out some special type of financing, and that just happens to be terms. Right? So that's how we do it. Now the other direct to seller can look different for other people. They can be doing straight cold calling. Or they can do mailings and all that stuff. But really, essentially, direct to seller portion just comes from them pulling a list, niche list that has some type of stressors on there. So you think these people might be motivated. But right now, a big thing that we're also doing is direct to agent stuff, right? Hitting up the agents who have houses on the market, right, that aren't selling. Right, whether they have equity or not, we can deal with all of them, right, because of the creative financing aspect. But if they're not selling, we know they're motivated, potentially motivated, right, and they can't sell on the market. So that already cancels out market for us. Now, you just got to be strategic about at what point do you hit them up, right? What point are you hitting that agent up? And a lot of times, too, when they expire, it's not a bad idea, too, because I was an expired agent. A lot of the expired people going after expireds are going straight to the seller. Agents are doing it and investors are doing it. But why not pivot and go to to the agent to see if they can give you a layup, and you give them a little finder fee or something. Commission's off the table at this point. You know, they didn't market the deal property and sell it. You know, in my mind, that's what makes sense. You know, so I feel like it's an easier conversation to kind of knock down. Not that you want to knock down the commission, but you want to make the numbers work. And sometimes, most of the time, agents, because I'm an agent too, I work with them all day, every day. They understand, or they don't understand, like, the velocity of money. Make the money on the deal and move on, right? They want to and then go into the next deal, right? Make something, move on. They want to hold on to what this could have been because they already spent it in their mind, right? You know, it's ridiculous. So at that point, they've lost the bag already. So, hey, I got $1,500 if you want to throw me a bone and put me in there with the seller. You know, so that's my kind of theory on that extra strategy. But yeah, so that's direct to agent, direct to seller. The JV, direct to wholesaler, right? If you want to do subject to deals, you can buy deals that wholesalers can't sell because they're just doing cash transactions, right? So that's another avenue.
That's amazing. In terms of if you were starting out today, and if you had someone who was interested in this, maybe what would you kind of give as advice to get started and start the ball rolling on this?
Yeah, that's a good question too, because that's happening every day. There's somebody new jumping into this, and they don't know where to start. The best place to start is with somebody doing it, right? Just get with somebody who's already doing it and figure out how to get a part of a transaction, so you can make some type of money and you can have some insight into what it takes to make these transactions happen. The problem is everyone's counting their money before they even earn it, right? So they're trying to split the pie before it's even baked. I had a guy who contacted me on IG, like, asking me how much I charge for this and that. Like, bro, I mean, depends on what you want me to really do. I don't really charge. It's not like we're making money together. You know, like, if you bring a deal, I'm not going to steal it. Oh, and that was the other follow-up. And how do I know you won't steal the deal? I'm like, oh, come on, steal the deal? Like, already, vibrationally, I don't even know. I don't even think we're a match. You're talking about stealing a deal. You come from scarcity. Come on, man. You know, so... I gave him my number. I just said, call me. And he never called, right? But he followed up with another question again, asking something. Well, what if, I just stopped responding because who has time for that? You know, that's fear. There's a lot of fear in there. We're just about making money together. That's what it's all about.
No, that's amazing, Drew. Drew, I want to be mindful of your time. What's the best way people can get in contact with you and kind of connect on these things? I'm guessing IG might be the answer to that.
IG, I give my phone number too because I'm still in the rat race. I'm trying to get out of the rat race, right? I make money, right? But we got to understand what getting out of the rat race means, right? I need passive income, right? So the money stacks up and it gets spent, but I need these assets to stack up too. So I'll give you my number. I'll put my number here, or I'll say it, whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, the IG works as well. But that's it. Probably if I have a Facebook, I'm barely on it. IG, I'll see it. It'd be better because we can connect. I'll follow you back. Whoever, sends me a follow request. But, so IG is, Sub2Drew. That's 2 with the number, or, the number 2, not TO. And there's another Sub2Drew out there. He's a part of Sub2 community as well. He's newer. I talked to him. We laughed about having the same name and everything. It's cool. He's a cool guy. But my number, 407-373-3279. If anybody calls me though, I'm always on and off the phone, and I'm actually getting to a point where I'm getting like too busy. So I'm trying to have discipline on not answering the phone every time. Because it like takes me off of my schedule. Things fall through the cracks all the time because of it. I had to work on the discipline to answer the phone all the time, and now I got to undo that. So leave a message or send me a text with at least a name. Sometimes people text me, they don't even have a name in there. I'm like, damn, like who is this? So or call and leave a message, text, leave a message, whatever, But let's hook up and do a deal.
There you go. Investories fam, hook up and do a deal. It doesn't get more of an opportunity there, right on a plate. So,
definitely, let's make some money. Yeah.
Drew, thank you so much. We really appreciate this. I feel like we've been on a journey through your experience and through kind of how
Yeah.
you've learned and stuff like that. So thank you so much. It's absolutely
Thank you
killer
guys,
content.
man. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Definitely.
Awesome, and we'll be back next week.
Let's go.
Thank you for listening to the Investories podcast. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories podcast.